Thompson Productions.
Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off, Jesse.
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
What up, what up? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Dump with Austin Picard from the Underclass Podcast. Man, so we have quite a bit to honestly discuss this morning that is very much kind of in the same framework of, first of all, obviously we have a Jeffrey Epstein victim who was abused, repeatedly abused as a teenager, and now has been hit by a bus, right? And very seemingly, it's impossible almost to dismiss at face value as being potentially some sort of targeted assassination, considering the timing. So I think that alone is worth, at least a minor discussion to see if any of the details kind of glow and stick out to us specifically, right? But what's up, everybody? Good morning, King David. What's up? Say what and hey, say what now? Think, change, repeat. GM. Yeah. So at least we could. I mean, that's a little bit of a dark place to, as far as a starting point, but is concerned. But a more casual and entertaining place we could begin would be, let's say, Ye's back at it again, right? We can do a little check-in on Kanye West. What's up, Jacob? How you doing, brother? Daniel McLaughlin in the chat. What's up, my friend? Oh, man. But yeah, we have, it's safe to say we have plenty to discuss. And apparently, I almost used Kanye's Black Klan costume as the thumbnail this morning. I wanted to so bad, but I was trying to figure out a way. Yeah, anyway, it's cool. I'll probably post it later. Doesn't even matter. But it is hilarious to as far as like also consider the timing of it, the influence of individuals like a Kanye, and then you have like, of course, it's just again this sort of influence op, right, where he's embracing these sort of like what he claimed. I mean, he's anti-Semitic now. He said it straight out, which is hilarious. I mean, obviously he's trolling, but the timing of it's perfect. We have the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. We have a Jewish rabbi legitimately calling for it being against anti-Semitism isn't enough, right? What does he say? One must be anti-Semitic. So this is obviously, I mean, the ultimate goal with this agenda is, as we've been, kind of covering lately, very much falls within the framework of infringing upon our inherent, First Amendment rights. And so this is just a clear violation of freedom of speech and more anti-freedom of speech legislation. So it's not all that surprising. It's typically the direction that we consistently head in, but it would be worthwhile in listening to this. Yeah, America first, but Israel more firstist. Exactly. Anti-Zionist. Yep, I am anti-Zionist, I will say. But you know, it's kind of hilarious how people don't really even, they're unable to comprehend and conceptualize what Zionism truly is, right? And the Zionism project. I appreciate you, Heleno Mofo, dude. Man, you guys are the best. But no, I just think that understanding like this environment that we reside in at this moment, and then also you have to consider, right, Frances Marine Le Pen apparently was convicted, and it does seem like it falls perfectly in the same exact kind of the playbook that they were utilizing against Trump leading up to this past election. And as far as just kind of utilizing the justice system as a tool and a weapon to leverage against your political opponents. But it always strikes me as being a layer deeper than that, and so who knows what the true underlying agenda is that is attempted to be achieved at this moment. But I am skeptical, I will say that much, as far as it makes all the sense in the world, but the notion is that this is kind of we'll get into it because Mike Benz had a very interesting take, and we'll have to kind of cover that briefly. But yeah, first of all, I always find it very important to always highlight and spotlight, Ron Paul anytime he has anything to say, honestly. But he has a stark warning for just the current state of the First Amendment, and it's something that I think everyone is beginning to realize, that this is very much under attack. And so, especially you consider this, again, as I mentioned, this rabbi telling the Senate at this hearing, it's not enough to not be anti-Semitic. And so, yeah, with Ron Paul, the great Ron Paul, he had something to say about this. And he says free speech is worth fighting for. And it was published at antiwar.com actually this morning. So I think every time I get the chance, man, I go back and I watch that speech, the farewell speech that Ron Paul gave, anti-Semitic, yeah, exactly, that Ron Paul gave to Congress, the what if speech. That's a tough one, because I will always inevitably it will result in me essentially coming to tears, because it's such prophetic, just like, and again, just it's a reminder of maybe what could have been if intentions were actually, on average in the ruling class, if there actually were good intentions. My God, as much as I don't appreciate any sort of power hierarchy or hierarchical structure, it's just as far as, the structure of the state, and the class divide. I think the class division is what I've focused most on, but, it's just a reminder of we've strayed so far off of, the American dream was, in my mind, kind of obviously a Rosicrucian mission, as we've said before, and we've kind of been, in many ways, I think that it's a huge misnomer and misconception, and we've embraced a storybook fairy tale in regard to the foundation of America, and so. The American dream was always sort of the American nightmare in certain ways, but we did at least have, right, this underlying, the subtext was very much that, the ultimate goal was individual sovereignty, but I think that had to have been a part of the deception, as much as we've been able to exercise that in the past. Not as much in my lifetime. I don't know how you guys feel, but so free speech is worth fighting for, and Ron Paul will forever be one of my only political heroes because I have no more heroes, and I think that's a good thing, right? To kind of get out from under that naive, vulnerable state of mind, and how we embrace these false prophets, and worship at the feet of these political puppets. Like, we need to wake up and stop being so childish in our interpretation of the just how power is structured in general, and leveraged against us. But we do not have free speech to talk about the weather. Our founders, particularly James Madison, who drafted the Bill of Rights, understood that our rights are not privileges granted to us by government. No, it was understood at the founding that these basic natural rights outlined by Madison were granted by our Creator, and thus no mere mortal could take them away. And first among these is the First Amendment, which recognizes that most basic of our natural rights, the right to express ourselves in any way we wish. Unfortunately, the U.S. government has not always been in accord with this sentiment, and has many times in our history been at war with our freedom of speech. From the Alien and Sedition Acts at the beginning of our republic, to Abraham Lincoln's war on speech, to the jailing of anti-war activists during both world wars, to Kent State, the political class is all for free speech, unless it is threatening to the political class. Recently, a new front has been opened in the war on free speech, and it is one that Americans must take seriously. On university campuses across the country, students, both American and foreign guests, have taken to protesting U.S. support for Israel's actions in Gaza, where tens of thousands of innocent civilians have been killed. The political class in the United States is determined to defend Israel from its critics, and has responded to these protests by threatening and blackmailing the universities if they do not crack down on speech the powers that be do not like. Both Presidents Biden and Trump have used the power of U.S. government funding to demand a crackdown on speech they don't like, with President Trump recently pulling $400 million in federal funding for Columbia University if they don't silence the protesters. The real scandal is that nearly every U.S. university, both public and private, is government funded in the first place. But for politicians to use the power of the purse to deny students the right to express themselves, as long as peaceful, just adds insult to injury. Last week, a Turkish PhD student at Tufts University was arrested on the street by plainclothes government agents for reportedly simply writing an editorial in her university newspaper expressing her views on the Israel-Palestine conflict. She faces deportation from the country. It's so crazy. My God, man. It's just kind of like, at this point, I don't know why we're ever shocked that we're just, we're the frog in the pot, man. You know what I mean? The boiling frog. So, it looks like she's not alone. Secretary of State Marco Rubio openly bragged about sending hundreds of students home because they express a political position he disagrees with. Others, including American citizens, have been expelled from their schools and have even had their degrees rescinded for peacefully expressing a political position that powerful people in Washington disagree with. You may also agree with the political position of these students, but to cheer their punishment by the U.S. government is to turn your back on the founding principles of this country. Yes, sir. Lance Ripa, the totalitarian tiptoe is becoming a march. Yeah. Marching in lockstep, goose stepping on command. Like, absolutely. It's pretty tragic. Man, freedom of speech is a natural right, not reserved for American citizens, but for all of humanity. And it has been a natural right worth defending for nearly 250 years. First, they came for foreign students expressing controversial positions, and many Americans cheered because they were not foreign and did not like the opinions. Dude, Ron Paul, he's the best. But make no mistake, this war on speech will not end with only foreigners being punished. It never does. Yeah. He could not be more accurate in that in that brief article, really addressing this nightmarish dystopian landscape that we're beginning to find ourselves in, man. Yeah. With the toad and the breast milk. Ron Paul is the man. Some people, they're on that divine path, man. You can sense it, you know. But anyway, let's see. We have this rabbi, of course, that I had mentioned, and it is important to point out what he was saying as he's briefing Congress. It's just absurd. But yeah, so then we'll get into, you know, Virginia Giuffre and a little bit more of we'll talk about Kanye just for a moment. We'll have to actually watch a couple of the videos. They're so funny. And hey man, thank you so much. Cheers to the end times. Says long time listener, but my first time catching this live. I greatly appreciate all your work. Thank you so much. So, Rabbi, let's watch this video. It is so ridiculous, you know, that, and by the way, did you see this? We'll have to talk about Randy Fine as well, the senator who, my God, man, he's called the Hebrew Hammer. I didn't know this. He has a nickname. It's so ridiculous, but of course, he's getting a glowing endorsement from Donald Trump, right? So Trump's giving him this glowing support as, of course, they're attempting to primary Massey, and he's over there supporting and endorsing Lindsey Graham, of course, as well. So yeah, we're fighting back against the deep state, guys. So just laughable on its face, but yeah. So I loved what Radix Verum Christina had to say about this as well. She said, "This is anti-American." About the obviously this rabbi speaking with senators on this anti-free speech legislation, and she says, "Where are the free speech enthusiasts to call this out? Too busy virtue signaling about Sharia law being incompatible with the West, which we all know, but so is this, which they ignore." And she's totally right. It's ludicrous. But so here we are. Let me share it real quick. Let's see where we're at. And it's so ridiculous seeing that footage of Virginia Giuffre as well, man. It's definitely was startling, but I mean, what would you expect this moment if there is any sort of legitimate transparency in any sort of way? If just some accidental, documents that reveal certain aspects of the abuse that she could, of course, just confirm and corroborate as a victim herself. But anyway, so let's check this out.
Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. We must demand the same of our universities and government institutions. This hearing, in my opinion, is an attempt to be just that, anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism is
It's so
not just
crazy. Let's see the other one. There's definitely a longer version. Yeah, here's the longer version. This is crazy. This version actually shows, it's obviously there's a strategic goal here, and again, it is the tiptoe. So we are witnessing this in real time.
The federal government must take urgent steps to address this crisis. The anticipated passage of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act is a crucial measure that will help define and combat anti-Semitism in educational institutions. The adoption of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism is another necessary step, as it provides a clear framework for recognizing and addressing anti-Semitic incidents. Without these defining developments, universities and administrators will continue to exploit loopholes to avoid taking real action. Moreover, federal authorities must demand a safe learning environment for all students, including Jewish students. Universities that tolerate anti-Semitic harassment should face real consequences. The previous administration took some steps in recognizing anti-Semitism as a national concern, hosting high-level meetings and engaging Jewish leaders in discussions across the spectrum. However, these efforts must not be diluted by lumping anti-Semitism together with other forms of discrimination at this point. While all forms of hate should be addressed, anti-Semitism has unique characteristics that require a dedicated response.
Wow, that's amazing. That is just so. Like America first. This is absolutely absurd. So, to reinforce, obviously, first of all, I found it a little bit interesting that, these free speech concerns regarding this anti-Semitism bill have been obviously, at least there have been, certain. There's definitely been some various reports that have been circulating for basically the past 6 months, if not even longer than that, essentially outlining this as a potential threat. Even the ACLU, which, as much as I don't appreciate these organizations, occasionally they get something right in their kind of just their interpretation and of some sort of infringement constitutionally. But yeah, so we shouldn't meet this. There's an article on this rabbi, at least his conversation in the Senate hearing and his presentation of this anti-Semitic concept. And it's worth just going over briefly for a moment. And but basically, Chabad Lubavitch, all right, Rabbi Levi Shemtov, who has been dubbed the Rabbi of Capitol Hill, told senators at a hearing on anti-Semitism, of course, that it's not enough for individuals and institutions to be not anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice, as we just watched him say. But here's where we get, kind of the spin, which it's always important to recognize and acknowledge. But Matt Walsh says that this is a page right out of the BLM playbook, the same rhetoric, almost word for word. And I understand that concept. It's essentially highlighting the cultural Marxism aspect of this, and as at least in the terms of, anti-racism, right? Like being anti-racist, like that has very much been in the modern lexicon, at least in the more recent, just the past few years, obviously, considering a lot of the cultural Marxist outrage and considering that the culture war as it was kind of climaxing, which I do still think there's obviously I think that racism and misogyny and the Me Too movement and all of those various things were kind of like really the climax of the identity politics, cultural Marxist ideology, sort of, being fully embraced at this new age esoteric level of, ideology. Um, but now it almost doesn't even matter anymore, because the division has been sowed to such an extent. I think that yeah, I'm just, again, this is personal experience from my own, direct environment. I can kind of gauge, um, just I attempt to, right, just kind of use that to my advantage at times to hopefully accurately interpret the overall environment that most of us are being exposed to. But we're all prisoners of our environment as well, so it's the best I can do. But realizing, just realizing that level of division that has been achieved, and then the reaction to the pendulum swinging and the shift taking place in DC, and various ideologies kind of ruling the day for, again, it's as we've talked about so often, it's this identity politics where you've embraced this systematic structure as your new religion, right, essentially, right? And so your ideology now is your religious belief system, and so you no longer can separate the two. They are essentially tied at the hip. And so if you oppose any of the crucial tenets within the ideology, then you're essentially guilty of being of blasphemy, right? And truly, that's something that I think we're reaching a level that is unprecedented, and I'm witnessing families being ripped apart, man, and it's all due to this misinterpretation and misconception, entirely wrapped up in this framework of the culture war itself, and honestly, looking to the political puppets to again, for representation, which is it's just that in itself, from day one, I've felt for so long entirely disenfranchised, and so I do think that understanding, where we are at this very moment. Hey, Conspiracy Carpenter, appreciate you, brother. just understanding, man, they win because they collectivize. Yeah, individualists will always lose to them. Hey, man, I think that collectivism is a poison pill in itself. I'm philosophically opposed in like every way. I would imagine, principally, to the collectivist mindset, because I think it's a trap, and that's why I just absolutely oppose democracy. I think inherently it's a flawed concept. It's the tyranny of the majority, as I've said many times, and the majority are retarded. I mean, like, have we not come to that conclusion yet? It's very obvious. At the very least, they're under some sort of like widespread mind control, or what's a better term? When oh shit, what's the term where you fall in line with your captors? Stockholm syndrome, damn it. Yeah, that's what it is. It's one nation under Stockholm syndrome, and that is where we are. And when you've been psychologically corralled to that extent, shit, man, you individualists aren't like these collectivist pedos. Yeah, exactly. And that's what had. Hey, man, sociopaths, they can't swim alone. Like at least it never seems to end well. And so they find each other, right? And you find these like-minded groups of individuals, which we all do. That's what I'm doing in this very moment now, so I wouldn't spin off the planet and lose my damn mind. I needed an outlet, and thank God, you guys exist, and that people share these ideas, and we can grow together and learn, and objectively pursue the truth, and that in itself is a threat to the establishment, right? And there's a reason that they're targeting free speech, obviously. So the majority are retarded. Hey, man, that's what it feels like to me. But mass formation psychosis, you're right, man. As much as what was Dr. Robert Malone, yeah, as much as he sort of glows in certain ways, I really appreciated him during COVID. He shed a lot of very crucial, just vital information in a time where it was, I mean, you guys remember that was one of the most, I mean, I was living in LA the whole time during COVID, and I'll never forget just my phone tracking me, like it's nuts going down to Newport, like doing a whale watching tour, like, because my mom was in town, and like getting alerts because we've been exposed. I mean, it's just like, what kind of world are we living in, man? But yeah, anyway, that is the way of the world at this point. So we just need to acknowledge it and move forward with this understanding in mind, but anyway, we'll finish this story and get back into some actual content of certain things that have been taking place within the past 24 hours. But yeah, Jacob, I'll never forget the day I realized COVID was an anti-human depopulation plan. Absolutely, my friend. I thank God that I had embraced good ideas leading up to that just dystopian rollout of the agenda, right? And that, man, I'm just so grateful that I recognized it as this globalist agenda, the Operation Lockstep. Just realizing that this gradual tiptoe is not so gradual as forget if it was McLaughlin or who said it earlier, but yeah, we're marching in lockstep, and we're heading there in a very quick and it seems efficient. I mean, at least they moved the timetable forward in a very just extraordinary way, and that's what COVID was. It was truly a tool of, I think, it helped implement key aspects of this new globalist framework toward the technocratic state that we are heading directly toward. It seems like we're free falling into that very, technocracy that we've been so worried about. And I just feel like they're almost ahead of schedule, or maybe they were behind schedule, and that's what COVID became, was right. We need to get back on schedule. But yeah, Jose and I have discussed recently, just mentioning the goal, the stated goal at Davos being, to reestablish public trust. They understand, right? Like that the elite ruling class of unelected bureaucrats and aristocratic psychopaths, they've been at this for too long, man. I feel as if they are very much prepared to react and misdirect us and pivot when need be, to continue down this the ultimate, just again, the level of what they are efficiently achieving. Yeah, it's something that is unprecedented, and it's again, I think the cultural divide, the culture war itself, the ideological two-party delusion, those various aspects are entirely clouding our vision and our ability to realize and understand we're heading in the same direction, no matter who you are allowed to vote for, as we've said many times. And all they have to do is play to your delicate sensibilities on one side, and then ratchet up the fear and, you know, the fear-inducing false flags or whatever the case may be. And they will achieve those goals because we all are acting as naive children, unable to just think for ourselves, you know, in any real way, and make a decision with our core values and principles at heart and in mind. You know, we need to exercise these principles if we claim to hold them so dear. So yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm basically preaching at this point, and we're 36 minutes in. So but hey man, if we have to become an anti-Semitic cult, that I'm just fucking with you. But honestly, what is happening? You know, like how are people not just, and by the way, Sam, you know, he told me recently, he's been kind of running with this theory that that the right is going to abandon Israel, essentially, or at least the Zionists in certain ways, based on a lot of this kind of ratcheted tension that's being, you know, it's very obvious at this moment. It's you know, out there in our faces in such a just ridiculous way that it's undeniable, and everyone is aware of it at this moment, even if they're dismissing it and justifying it. So yeah, it's definitely it would be, man, I would love and to think that way and remain optimistic, imagining some sort of actual dissent, you know, in that sort of framework of the party politics. But yeah, this is the risk you run when you play this game, is that essentially you're always willing and ready to be misdirected once again and re-corralled back into these terrible ideas to inevitably you know, come up with some, or at least parrot the next justification. So I don't know, I'm concerned that people will, I mean, in essence, no one will be able to see through this until, and in my mind, this is how I think of the state of Israel. I've viewed it, and who knows, I could be entirely wrong on this, but I've for the, at least I've kind of, I've become to, as far as like I'm under the impression at this point that the state of Israel is seemingly a tool utilized by, you know, this sadistic set of psychopaths that are behind the curtain pulling the strings, and that essentially they will utilize the current state of Israel to achieve these goals by implementing this globalist framework on the world stage through these geopolitical conflicts strategically, you know, in place that run parallel with the globalist agenda, and then crucify the state of Israel for inevitably pursuing those objectives and agenda items. I mean, why wouldn't that be the case? That was essentially the concept of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Was there were an elite sect of Jewish, you know, aristocratic Zionists who came up with this idea of the Zionist project and these various, right, to essentially sacrifice as many Jews that were members of the peasant class, the Jewish peasant class, or the Orthodox Jews who were very much in opposition to the Zionist project. they were willing to sacrifice as many as necessary in order to essentially achieve a sort of blank check to then implement this new modern state of Israel on the world stage with no sort of real, resistance. And so who knows how accurate that truly is, but I definitely am under the impression that it's definitely a plausible narrative. And considering the fact that, yeah, so man, who knows? I just think that it's an oversimplification in my mind. And anytime I am kind of witnessing what I view as an oversimplification, I feel as if the red flag should be raised, right? And our eyebrows, as well. And we should just be very skeptical, and so I think the again, that collectivist mindset, it pairs seamlessly with the misconception and false interpretation of the power structure in general on the world stage. And so then you blame an entire group, right, for the crimes of these sadistic, psychopathic individuals who, I'm sure we don't know most of their names, right? I mean, we at least have some of them that we can point to as examples, but it's just, man, it's never as simple as we're intended to believe. So anyway, let's see the last couple of points on this rabbi preaching to Congress. When BLM advocated that it was not enough to simply not be racist, exactly what we pointed out. What came afterwards were demands for racial supremacy under the guise of fighting racism. I'm not new to this logic. Exactly. And that is, I think that was Candace Owens who said this, but it is a perfect, it is once again just, it's the reality that we're facing. So whether we like it or not, they are definitely targeting the First Amendment. So what do you guys have to say? We got anything going on in the chat? Lizard people. Yes, lizard people everywhere, you guys. Yeah, and by the way, yeah, it's not enough to be racist. I know. So now we can move on to, we'll actually cover a couple of additional things, like, let's say, again, Virginia Giuffre. I think it's something that, first of all, I think she understanding, her connection to Prince Andrew, right? Realizing that obviously she's sexually abused and raped repeatedly as a teenager, and then, as I mentioned before, hit by a bus at an insane rate of speed, which just on its face is very strange, and then, of course, considering the Jeffrey Epstein or the Epstein files, which, again, you already know, I hold out no real hope or optimism that it's, we're actually going to receive any real transparency of any kind, or disclosure that's honest. But still, let's read through a little bit of what actually happened to Virginia Giuffre, because it's a very tragic story, and she already has been. I mean, she's been through enough, right? But now we have to actually got ran by a train, and then oh god, JMS, fuck, that's terrible, brother. But so oh yeah, we'll talk about Virginia Giuffre, and then I have to this did pair seamlessly with the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and the targeting of free speech. So we will have to discuss the Hebrew Hammer, America First patriot Randy Fine. We'll have to discuss him, because if you didn't realize, and this is terrible, before warning, and obviously this is Just could you imagine supporting, witnessing a dead child in the rubble after an airstrike that you support, and then actually saying that you sleep quite well, and thanks for the picture. Yeah. That's your boy, the patriot, America First Patriot, Randy Fine, right? But the Hebrew Hammer, brother. But yeah, so no, I guess I'm not a Q-tard, guys. Trust the plan. Nah, man, I'm good. I don't trust any plan, to be honest. All right. So we'll get into a little bit of this, and also watch this video of Virginia Giuffre when she was talking about how obviously her connection to Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell kind of setting that up, which again, it goes to show, man, like we've had this conversation before. Ghislaine was far more. Hold up. What do you have to say, Jacob? I'm not buying this story. No doctor would give that kind of timeline, nor would they let her condition go that far, which can be fixed by dialysis. Yeah, it seems so weird, dude. Seems so weird. And just looking at the swelling, yeah, it is, dude. I get it. All right, I question it instantly, but still, I think that we should at least check it out and read through some of the details, because it could even, who knows, it might actually throw off some more red flags and provide another sort of smoking gun, hopefully. But who knows, brother? It is very, very weird, and you would imagine. I don't know. Like, it is. Yeah, you're right. Her picture is just like, you would think if you got hit by a bus at that rate of speed, it would be a little bit more extreme, even as much as she doesn't look good. I mean, who was it? Maria Farmer? Who was, trying to remember. Was it Virginia who had the cancer? As I remember, one of them had like very seemingly fast acting cancer in a way. And I'm going to have to look this up here in a moment, because I think there's a tie definitely to some of the Epstein victim stories that have been most spotlighted in the media. And then many people, even people who I respect and admire and think that are credible investigative journalists, have kind of pushed back on some of the claims, which, and also just claiming that they were in a way kind of deceived by some individuals who were claiming to have been, maybe more of a victim than they truly were, which we already know how these networks operate. They utilize the victims to procure other victims. So, it's like, obviously being a part of that, well, then you are a part of the network itself in facilitating it. If you're a part of the procurement process, even if you are a victim who was conditioned to behave in this manner. But yeah, dude, I don't blame you, Jacob. It seems so strange. He said he's just not buying it. I saw somebody say that maybe she's faking her death to begin anew in protected custody. Ooh, hey, that's possible. It's possible. Let's see. Epstein victim, cancer. We're just getting. Anyway, I'll look it up and I'll bring it at some point, because I was almost positive that she was actually the one who had this, rare form of cancer. It was Maria Farmer. Battles cancer and Epstein. Yeah, it was Maria Farmer. So anyway, there is definitely something worthwhile in pointing out that I think she claimed that there was another victim of Epstein's, or someone else who was directly involved in potentially exposing the network, and they also were diagnosed with the exact same form of cancer around a similar time, if I remember. And that again is, it's very possible that it was naturally occurring, but we all know that that's what the CIA is capable of at this point. I mean, the heart attack gun for one, but But it seems as if, I know, right? She's not already in protective custody. Like, I think the FBI has been, and that was the other story on a lot of this. The FBI has been so unhelpful, if not, you know, ultimately just sort of playing a role in defending and protecting the network by, in a way, kind of undermining the credibility of the victims, right? And that has happened over time, and even there have been at least stories and reports by these victims, like Maria Farmer, who claimed that, you know, they were approached by the FBI. One of the FBI, Johnny Vedmore, has had some things to say about Maria Farmer that make it seem she isn't what she claims exactly. That's what I've heard. That's what I'm saying. Like, I haven't read too much into it. I think I even saw Whitney Webb say something, and that made me pause right away, because I was like, oh no, she's had, she's been overexposed to some of these victims of Epstein's network. So if you're going to kind of take anyone's, just as far as their expertise and personal opinion in regard to the just the individual credibility of the victim, you would never imagine, at least I wouldn't, that Whitney would effectively dismiss some sort of what it did seem, though, is that they were questioning her credibility, and as if maybe she had more of a pivotal role to play within the framework of the network itself, within her relationship with Ghislaine, if I remember correctly. I'm not entirely certain, but I'll have to look into it again at a deeper level and bring it to the table, because, man, that's worrisome. And obviously we've pointed out Paul Benassi and his role in these networks as well, and it's definitely a possibility that you would want to, if you played a pivotal part in the network, you would definitely want to, as it's being revealed to the public and exposed, you would want to distance yourself and maybe even claim victim status in order to, right, gain further credibility to at least for public perception, if only to then use that same credibility that you've achieved to against the actual victims, and the true real transparency effectively taking place. That would probably be a legitimate, plausible outcome. I don't know, man. That scares the shit out of me, though. I wouldn't at all be shocked. It honestly seems like it's par for the course. Like, that would probably be the case. But again, isn't that the worst feeling ever? Having to kind of suggest the fact that someone who might actually be a victim. Yeah, that's a tough one, and it goes without saying, basically, that strategically that's gold if you're a member of the network and attempting to, obviously, just remain hidden from exposure in certain, as far as the certain realistic patterns that expose the true aspects of how the network functions. God damn it. I just spilled coffee all over myself. Anyway. Yeah. Is that true? Juan says Whitney Webb and her partner treated Maria like shit. Whitney is no good. Oh no, man. Don't hurt my feelings, man. No, I have so much respect for a lot of Whitney's work, and so it's hard for me. I would need to look into it a little further, but I'm not opposed to what you're saying. I'm open-minded to this as a reality. I hope that's not the case, though, man. But anyway, let's listen into this. Read a little bit of the article for a moment to sift through a few of the details, and then we'll pivot for one last segment, I think, before I get out of here, because, man, it's Tuesday, so we got Already Dead tonight, And oh my God, I found out about some crazy stuff about, I was unaware that, man, I knew about the Cotton Club killers and the Process Church connection to Roy Radin and this crazy snuff enterprise and a cult network tying in David Berkowitz in the process and everything. It's fascinating stuff, but I found out a little bit more, and yeah, we'll have to have that conversation probably tonight because, my God, I mean, we're talking about the Nugan Bank is brought into the picture, which is totally, again, um, introducing the elements of Iran Contra, and even more than that, not even just Iran Contra, the Fort Bragg murders and the cadaver connection. I mean, the drug smuggling operation going through the military bases. It's crazy, and so that's also directly tied in. Which, guess what, man? We discovered in that Jeffrey McDonald episode when the Fort Bragg murders that the Process Church has a direct connection to those ritual murders. And yeah, well, it looks as if some of the victims of David Berkowitz in the Bronx specifically just so happened to be affiliated with these drug smuggling operations that were being conducted covertly at the time domestically. Hey, stop. Sorry, my dog's pissing me off. Anyway, so let's get into or let's finish this part about Virginia Giuffre and man, you guys are freaking me out because I already was very skeptical, and yeah, some of the stories, man, because I've listened to a lot of Maria and Virginia as well, and yeah, it's some of them have struck me as very odd, but when you're dealing with the victims who have been victimized from such a young age, they have strange tendencies as it is. Like I don't know, it's difficult, to kind of accurately identify and at least kind of gauge the credibility. But anyway, let's watch this really quickly and then get into some of the details again.
I was so young. Keelan woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today." I didn't know at that point that I was going to be trafficked to that prince. And then that night, Prince Andrew came to our house in London, and we went out to Club Tramp. Prince Andrew got me alcohol. It was in the VIP section. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. Prince Andrew was like, "Let's dance together," and I was like, "Okay." And we leave Club Tramp, and I hop in the car with Giuffre and Giuffre. And Giuffre said he's coming back to the house, and I want you to do for him what you do for Epstein. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that even royalty were involved. I was so young.
Yeah, so that just basically was her admitting to, how she kind of met Prince Andrew. But still, now let's go through this alleged bus crash, which is so weird, man. Like that alone, very strange way for if you were to conduct a targeted assassination. Now I understand that, obviously I've mentioned this before. The CIA has a method of targeted assassination where they basically utilize a vehicle, which they say at a certain rate of speed. When you strike another vehicle at a certain, there's an angle that they strategically attempt to, as far as they try and hit this other vehicle at a strategic angle. Yeah, Princess Diana style, 100%. And then it will 9 times out of 10 result in, a obviously death, right? So that alone is always been interesting to me because that came up in the context of Watergate and what they called aspirin roulette, which and it was all in the context of targeting an American journalist, which is for what for exposing war crimes and essentially that were it was basically covert weapons smuggling, arms dealing to I believe it was during the India and Pakistan war, the conflict at the time. Very interesting stuff. But all right, so Virginia Giuffre accused Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, of course, of sexual abuse. She's claiming to have 4 days to live. That's I don't like. Yeah, it's very interesting to have 4 days to live after a bus crash. But let's see. Giuffre was most recently living in Australia. Posted a photo of her bruised face lying on a hospital bed on Instagram, explaining that doctors told her she had 4 days to live due to kidney failure following the wreck. Interesting. So I guess the kidney failure is the reason that maybe her skin looked all. I don't know. That's a very interesting one. Yeah, no. Michael Hastings did not kill himself, and actually, I had that conversation with Sam and Brad on whatever this is Sunday night, and because I always go back to the Vault 7 documents and the revelations exposing the reality of what they're capable of once again. That specific model of Mercedes that Michael Hastings was driving that night on Sunset in Hollywood was specifically, in as far as the Vault 7 documents are concerned, like it was revealed that model of vehicle was specifically, could be utilized as far as they could tap into, they could essentially hack the computer motherboard, the technological motherboard in the vehicle, and then smash the accelerator to the floor, right? And so that always, to me, and that was obviously the method of targeted assassination, was the reason that was even kind of a goal that was effectively achieved. But the whole point being is that Michael Hastings, it was basically proven that, and this is statistically, the data shows that it's basically impossible for and very, very rare for people who if you don't remember, Michael Hastings is the journalist who was embedded into the access bubble, is what he called it, with General Stanley McChrystal, who was running the Joint Special Operations Command during the original terror wars, and then was then promoted under Obama, and really to 4-star general as far as his he was running the Afghan war at the time, basically, and yeah, he was running JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, whenever the Pat Tillman friendly fire incident happened as well, and he facilitated the initial cover up, which is just. Yeah, that's what, par for the course. Yeah, and Michael Hastings wrote this investigative article in Rolling Stone called "The Runaway General," and it led to McChrystal being forced to resign. And reading his book, The Operators, it is so fucking good, man. Oh, awesome. Hey, say what now? Read that thing. It's also one of the best audiobooks I've ever purchased as well. It's so easy as a read. It's worth having, in every version that you can, honestly, and it's really, really short. I think War Machine maybe was the idea that it was based, the one with Brad Pitt was like loosely based on the concept, but it definitely wasn't like, it didn't really, in my mind, it definitely wasn't, grappling with the most important aspects, but still. Once you like see the MI6 operator who's like embedded with McChrystal, and they're in like Paris, and they're grounded because there's like a They were supposed to go on some sort of peacekeeping mission and for some diplomatic reason. McChrystal and his entourage, and I forget where in Europe at the time. I can't remember. I can't recall, but they were grounded because some sort of volcanic eruption took place, and so they all just got stuck in Paris with Michael Hastings, who had been granted this access into the bubble because he had known someone who became kind of the PR guy for McChrystal's entourage. Very interesting stuff. And then during the time, they all go out drinking, and they get real loose. They get real loose with Michael Hastings, who, you know, he's approaching this as a legitimate journalist who everything's on the record, whether you know it or not, right? And so at one point, though, this MI6 operative straight up takes him to the side and says that essentially if he writes anything that smears the good reputation of McChrystal, then I'll fucking kill you. That's what he tells Michael Hastings. That was one of the moments where I just stopped. I just stopped reading for a moment, and I was like, "My God!" They actually said it. I mean, they threatened his life to his face, and then he writes this Runaway General article. McChrystal is forced to step down and resign, and just for PR, just for PR reasons alone, and then Michael Hastings inevitably turned it into a book. It developed into the Operators, and one of my favorite examples, because at least of, I'll never forget the environment that he's such a great writer that he puts you in that moment. You feel like you're there. And man, when McChrystal visited the front lines in Iraq, like, it was these poor guys were under those rules of engagement that Obama had employed that basically made them sitting ducks, on the front lines, and you're just waiting to die, waiting for your buddies to die. Like, that was basically what the order of operations at the time on the ground. And so McChrystal goes, I will say, man, I have to give it to the guy. He did in certain ways try and at least present that hoorah, I am a military service member, a combat veteran who's actually been involved in war. So he had some sort of respect from, as far as like just lower level military men who actually viewed him as a lot less of a pencil pusher sort of, authoritative figure. And they go down to, they fly in undercover, dark of night. They get McChrystal in here. He meets with all the soldiers and the battalion leaders and what's up, Boomer Sooner? And then they essentially, it was like an environment that resembled that of a mutiny, right? They just start confronting him, which is like, you don't do that, right? And it was very unexpected, but I'll never forget that, because it made me it made me realize and reflect on what some of these people go through, and I couldn't even imagine being in that position or in that state of mind, but yet he still somehow could look them in the eyes and convince them that he would go to bat for them, and that, just give them time. Meanwhile, they were kind of undermining in certain ways Obama, and it was very interesting. But yeah, it's a great book. I encourage everyone to go and read that. and Michael Hastings was murdered. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. As much as I think he was a very depressed person, because if you know about his initial relationship, he was embedded with his female companion, who was also a conflict journalist, and she died in the field. And I remember one of my original goals. I wanted to be a conflict journalist for a time, and then I saw James Foley. I saw right, like all these various examples of what can happen when you put yourself in that position, and you're attempting to actually objectively pursue the truth in that position. Good luck, because the Mockingbird media will be surrounding you, and they will definitely be urging you to facilitate the misconceptions and false narratives to obviously as far as just consistently facilitate the current conflict. That is status quo, par for the course. It is what the military industrial complex does. And so you have many different publications, the vast majority, I would think, that are very entirely compromised, and unmitigated mind. But anyway, so this year has been the worst start to a new year, Virginia Giuffre says, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you, oh shit, I forgot to plug in my computer. Anyway, it is important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can, the 42-year-old wrote in a post on Sunday. I've gone into I've gone into kidney failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes. Shit in one hand and wish in the other, and I guarantee it's still going to be shit at the end of the day, she wrote. Denny von Muffling, Giuffre's representative, told The Independent, Virginia has been in a serious accident and is receiving medical care in the hospital. She greatly appreciates the support and well wishes people are sending. In 2021, Giuffre alleged in a civil suit that Jeffrey Epstein forced her to have sex with Queen Elizabeth's second son on at least 3 occasions, in London, New York, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, when she was 17 years old and when he was 41. On one of these occasions, she told the court that she had been paid $15,000 for having sex with the Duke of York. He has vehemently denied these claims. No, I could see kidney failure. That is strange, though. So during each of these incidents, she was compelled by express or implied threats by Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and or Prince Andrew to engage in sexual acts with Prince Andrew, and feared death or physical injury to herself or another, and other repercussions for disobeying Epstein, Maxwell, and Prince Andrew due to their powerful connections, wealth, and authority, her suit says. Her complaint included a photo of the Duke with his arm around Giuffre as Maxwell, Epstein's associate and former girlfriend, smiles at the camera in the background. And I think Ghislaine was far more in charge, and that it was obviously her black book, and that Epstein was just kind of, along for the ride and provide, a part of the network in certain ways, obviously, but was really more of kind of like the front, the face. Ghislaine was out hunting for nubiles. So, let's see. Despite the fact that the photo had already surfaced years earlier in 2019, he told the BBC, I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. Giuffre previously accused Epstein and Maxwell of grooming her, and has claimed the pair had introduced her to Prince Andrew in 2001. Giuffre, who was born in California, had moved to Florida to rebuild her life. She had a rough childhood. She was sexually abused by a family friend at age 7 and wound up in and out of foster care homes later in childhood, she told the BBC. By age 14, she was living on the streets where she found hunger and pain and more abuse. Yeah, Kanye dressed up like a Jesuit. I loved what Shane Cashman said. He goes, everyone's going to dress as Ye for Halloween. By 16, she found a job at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach as a locker room attendant when Maxwell recruited her to become a massage therapist. Giuffre and Epstein settled in 2009 for $500,000, which included an agreement that Giuffre not take legal action against anyone connected to Epstein that could be described as a potential defendant. Lawyers for the Duke of York argued that Giuffre's sexual assault case against him should be dismissed, citing this document, but the judge rejected that request. Of course, here is the picture of Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell with Virginia Giuffre. The pair settled in February 2022 for an undisclosed amount. A month earlier, Buckingham Palace stripped the Duke of his military roles and HRH title. In a joint statement confirming the settlement, the Duke said he regretted his association with late pedophile Epstein, whom he acknowledged trafficked countless young girls over many years. Prince Andrew intends to make a substantial donation to Miss Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. Prince Andrew has never intended to malign Miss Giuffre's character. He accepts that she has suffered both as an established victim of abuse and as a result of unfair public attacks. The statement continued, "It is known that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked countless young girls over many years." Epstein was charged with sex trafficking. We know he's dead, allegedly. In response to her post, Giuffre's father, Sky Roberts, commented, "Virginia, my daughter, I love you and praying for you to get the correct treatment to live a long and healthy life. If there's anything in this world I can do to help you, please let me know. My spirit is with you now and holding your hand." That's a weird thing. Why would her father be responding on a post on social media? That's weird as hell, right? I mean, wouldn't you think that would be a more of a private question, or a private conversation? What up, dog? Jose's in the chat. Yeah, guys, hit the like button, share, subscribe, obviously. And let's see what else. We got a couple other things that we can cover. I am skeptical of this story, though. I'm going to be honest. This is very strange. I could see where I'm going to have to look at a deeper level into more of the credibility of certain victims of the Epstein network, because I know that, and I just think that it's important to always kind of exhaust our resources and just be careful as far as it's very difficult to not accept victim analysis at face value at certain points when she was a victim in the network. But yeah, as I said earlier, imagine if you became more of a facilitator and procurer in the network and far less of a victim at a certain point, and then utilize that status as a victim for your own benefit to protect that very network. It's possible, man, and that's something that I would be very worried about I need to look deeper into because as I said, I recently came across what Vedmore and I think Whitney had said about these I think it was her specifically, if not Maria Farmer. I'm trying to recall, but I'll do another I'll do another kind of dig, see what I can come up with. But to tie off that point from earlier regarding this anti-Semitism, free speech violations, I think that the point I wanted to make was basically that obviously you have this weird sociopath that's being endorsed by Trump named Randy Fine, and And I discovered that, well, it turns out, Randy Fine seems to perfectly dovetail or tie directly into this strange agenda playing out in front of our eyes, targeting the First Amendment. And so this is even in June 2024, right? And you have this strange connection to Representative Randy Fine in Israel at welcoming signing of laws addressing anti-Semitism. Yet now he's getting this glowing endorsement as an American first, right, candidate for by Donald Trump. So Jewish day schools can now receive state financing for security measures amid a rise in anti-Semitic activities since the October 7 Hamas attacks in Israel. A law signed Monday by Governor Ron DeSantis authorizes the Department of Education to include funds for professional security hardening as needed in the state budget for Jewish day schools, funding that has come ad hoc in the past. The law allows payment for security cameras, lighting, fencing, shatter-resistant glass, security personnel, transportation to minimize security exposure, and other measures. According to the Anti-Defamation League, anti-Semitic incidents more than tripled in the 3 months following the October attack, and it's more of a lot of this. But this bill passed the House 108-6 and the Senate 39-0 during the 2024 legislative session. Earlier, a November 2023 special session yielded a $25 million line item for Jewish day school security, along with $20 million for other locations, demonstrating an elevated threat level through a federal grant. The 2024-25 budget starting July 1st includes $20 million for safety measures at Jewish day schools and preschools. So it says criticisms of Israel that are similar to criticisms of any other country are allowed. Representative Randy Fine, a Republican representing Southern Brevard County, sponsored both bills. Let's see, here's the part I found interesting. The law adopts the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, a certain perception of Jewish individuals which may be expressed as hatred towards such individuals. Here's what I found crazy. The law goes further and prohibits rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism toward people or property, or calls to kill or injure of Jewish individuals, plus alleging that Jewish people control the media. Here's, dude, economy, government, and or other societal institutions, and denying the Holocaust. That it's like, man, is it going to become illegal to deny the Holocaust, or at least question the Holocaust in America as well? Because it's, I mean, how many countries again is it illegal to even have that conversation? I can't recall. It's a lot. It's far more than you would ever imagine, and so I think you see this man's direct connection. Obviously, he's Israel first and not some sort of American first patriot, as Donald Trump would have us believe. But of course, are we starting to notice a pattern, right? Like, what is happening here? So then on top of this, it turns out that this individual, Randy Fine, is apparently, he's considered the Hebrew hammer. All right. And this is the report from March 26th, just a few days ago. So it's not as much of an older report. This one actually seems to acknowledge and deal and grapple with what just has been happening in the recent few days. So it looks like he would replace Michael Waltz, right? Because he's running for Congress in a special election for Florida's 6th District. And Michael Waltz is the individual who resigned from his House seat after being appointed by President Donald Trump as National Security Advisor in January, right? Waltz is the guy who put Goldberg in the fucking Signal leak chat. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So President Trump and Waltz have endorsed Fine for Congress, along with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, Majority Leader Steve Scalise, I don't know, Rick Scott, and many other politicians, sheriffs, and organizations, including the NRA, AIPAC, and Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. In a November 23rd, 2024 post on X, President Trump described Fine as an incredible fighter who will work tirelessly with me to stop inflation, grow our economy, secure the border, champion our military vets, restore American energy dominance, protect our always under siege Second Amendment, and restore peace through strength. Well, it's hilarious that he didn't mention the First Amendment. Fine told the Jewish press on a phone call, I think President Trump wanted another Jewish warrior in Congress. Wow. I think President Trump wanted another Jewish warrior in Congress, another Republican Jew. Fine disclosed that people tell him he says what they think but can't say, to which he replied, that's not true. I say what everyone should say. I'm just brave enough to speak the truth. Fine's Democratic opponent, a public school math teacher, is affiliated with the Islamic Center of Orlando and the Florida LGBTQ Democratic... Whoa. Hold on. Hey, these are our options, guys. This is so hilarious. So, Islamic Center of Orlando... Does anybody remember the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando? Like, holy shit, man. This ties in directly. If you remember, right after that happened, Hillary Clinton had a political rally where Omar Mateen's father, Siddiqui Mateen, the CIA asset, was in a strategic location, positioned behind her, right, which is all by design. And then afterward, he's even approached by a news publication who gives him a video interview where he's holding a sign that that is in opposition of Donald Trump and in support of Hillary Clinton. And it's just one of the craziest things that I've ever witnessed. But understanding the connection to the Islamic Center of Orlando, to the Omar Mateen operation that was conducted under the Islamic Radical Seminary pipeline, right? Islamic seminary pipeline that was basically a radicalization pipeline. And they were targeting vulnerable individuals and various assets who were strategically in place, like an Omar Mateen at what was once, the whack and hunt mercenary dude. It is honestly, it's one of the craziest things ever. So I'm not at all surprised that there's some sort of strange connection there. But the tough, no-nonsense legislature that Fine has passed reflects his brazen outspokenness and his fierce determination to defend and protect the Jewish community. Signed in Jerusalem in 2023, Florida HB 269 penalizes individuals who throw anti-Semitic flyers onto private property and project anti-Semitic imagery onto commercial buildings with up to 5 years of imprisonment, probation, and a $5,000 fine. That problem has stopped. Gone. Doesn't happen anymore, Fine said. All the same Nazis and hateful people, they're still around. They just know their actions will have consequences. And we got a confident Republican Jew here who is called the Hebrew Hammer, and everybody needs to acknowledge this nickname. Fine said that in 2019, Florida was the first state in the U.S. Yeah. Hey, say what now? I heard it's the Muslim Brotherhood. We were all wrong. They all just happen to be Jewish. Oh, man. Florida was the first state in the U.S. to pass the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, definition of anti-Semitism into law, House Bill 741, which was also signed in Jerusalem. Fine explained, in our colleges and universities, you have to treat anti-Semitism the same way you treat racism. That's why we haven't had encampments on Florida campuses. For the same reason we don't have Ku Klux Klan rallies. If you do either of them, you're going to get thrown out. This is crazy messaging, honestly, but Florida was also the first state to implement a zero-tolerance policy for contracts with companies that support boycott, divest, and sanctions, BDS, divestment and sanctions. We passed a bill calling CAIR a terrorist organization, HR 1209. Just this week, we called Students for Justice in Palestine a terrorist organization in a bill that I passed, Fine stated. He's so proud. There's so many of them. Universal school choice to make sure that Jewish kids could get vouchers to go to Jewish day schools. Every year, I've done something to protect the Jewish people in Florida. Fine started advocating for the Jewish community through legislature in 2017 when he was asked by the Orthodox Union to raise money for security for Jewish day schools. His aggressive approach has made life in Florida considerably different from other states. Fine commented, compare what's going on in Florida to Jews. What? Compare what's going on in Florida to Jews to New York or California. If I can do nationally what I have done in Florida, there's going to be a lot of unhappy Muslim terrorists on their way home. Referring to HB1 passed in 2021, Fine matter-of-factly stated, we don't have people blocking the streets in Florida because I helped pass a bill that says you can run them over. Wow. He is running a bill, SB 814, to extend concealed carry rights to college students. Well, if Jews were allowed to carry, no one would have blocked their way at UCLA. That is hilarious. Here we go. Fine explained that he embraces the Hebrew hammer moniker given to him. I strike first, I strike hard, and there's no mercy. Fine learned how to fight back against anti-Semitism as a result of his tough childhood growing up in Lexington, Kentucky. He was one of the only Jews at his school and was taunted by other kids who called him a Kentucky Fried Jew. Dude, I would have named the episode that. That is so funny. Holy shit. Well, that was worth going through this alone. Just that. Kentucky Fried Jew. He said that at the age of 13, he decided to never let anyone push him around because of his religion and that he would never again apologize for being Jewish. He graduated magna cum laude. What the fuck? Dude, what is happening? From Harvard College and from Harvard Business School, the highest academic honor. After building successful businesses, he retired at age 40 before entering the political arena. Dude, this guy is a gift that keeps on giving. And today, Fine lives with his wife, Wendy, and two sons, Jacob, 17, and David, 13, in a small town in Florida. Fine said that when his kids were born, he made the decision that they were not going to go through what I did, and that is a promise I have failed to deliver on. He elaborated, you should be glad that I don't let myself off the hook, because that's what fuels me to do this. Wow. Yeah, dude, magna cum laude? That is the funniest. So, yeah, man, I don't know. This, I guess we're almost at the very end. We might as well finish. Taking after his father, Fine's son, his son David, is learning how to fearlessly defeat opponents. Fine relayed how he took his family to Israel last summer and how David toured the biblical sites of the king he is named after. He went to the riverbed where King David fought Goliath and collected 200 stones that looked like they could have gone into a slingshot and gave them to guests at his bar mitzvah. Fine said he is most proud of a powerful speech he gave on October 18th, 2023, in front of 100 legislators at the Florida Capitol Rotunda in Tallahassee about his grandmother, Lizzie, who survived the Russian pogroms when she was just 3 years old. In harrowing detail, he described how her parents and 8 of her brothers and sisters were murdered on top of her as they shielded her in a pile of death that she and her brother spent hours disentangling themselves from. Everybody thought I was talking about October 7, and I wasn't, Fine said. The purpose of telling the story was for people to understand that October 7 is not an anomaly. It's just the latest in a millennium-old effort by those who hate us to kill us. This is an American first. Patriot, according to Trump. People wiped their eyes behind him as he spoke, and Fine remembered hearing his non-Jewish friends gasp when they realized this massacre was not uncommon. In 2020, Fine signed HB 741, the Holocaust and Black History Education legislation, into law. Fine explained, yeah, it's interesting they keep pairing this anti-Semitic legislation to this anti-racist legislation. right? Or anti-Semitic. My bad. Fine explained. I redefined how Holocaust education was done in Florida after we had the principal in Boca Raton tell a parent he couldn't say that the Holocaust happened. What? That's so ridiculous. This past week, Fine's son Jacob was in the hospital with an emergency medical condition. Fine said that when he called him asking if he wanted him to come home, Jacob replied, "No, Dad, I need you to go win your election." Oh my gosh. All right, well, this is all from the Jewish press as well, which is kind of hilarious in itself. But yeah, I agree with Ron Paul, man. I think free speech is most definitely worth fighting for. And maybe the last thing we should talk about. I did mention, Marine Le Pen obviously being barred from seeking office for 5 years apparently, and there's a few noteworthy things regarding that story, but honestly, man, I think we'll just cover the Kanye costume and and then get out of here because we'll be back tonight for Already Dead and have some fun. But but let's check in with our boy Kanye West, man. I'm worried about him. It's so funny. Honestly, this is like one of the best. Oh man, you guys are on one in the chat. Free speech is worth being called a Nazi for. Yeah, worth being called a Nazi for. Absolutely, 100%, my friend. All right, what do we got with Yeezy? All right. I'll share real quick. So first, we should watch this short video of man, this is so funny though, honestly. Like, we'll have to go through what he said because it's
that run the Super Bowl.
All right, here we go.
That run the Super Bowl had to come to people who run the music industry and be like, "You guys, you're letting your niggers get out of hand." Oh my God, that Kanye. Would somebody take a knee for it? Where's he out of there? See, that's the problem. You let them last too long. In our league, they're for 2 years, 3 years, they're out of there. We deal with we got Tom Brady. He's great. We made Mahomes throw that fucking Super Bowl, so Tom could get his 7th ring and shit. But like, you guys at the music industry, you got to do, start getting smaller artists and put them on. We're going to set you up. We're going to take Rolling Loud. We're going to connect them with Live Nation. And then we're going to get a bunch of small artists. And then, you'll be able to make your money off of that. And then, if we take, Cardi's doing good, we'll make them take the blue pill. We'll have them rap about scams. And then mention Northwest. We love Northwest. All right, Kanye, don't worry about him. He's a lunatic. Don't worry about him. Does any of that sound right or sound accurate to you?
Dude, I'm telling you, we need to protect Kanye at all costs at this point, man. This is too funny. All right, now let me pull up before we actually get into. There's an article with a rundown on on Kanye's KKK costume, but it's I think there was another video that's also hilarious that I didn't bookmark. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Dude, I'm just saying, like, we need to first of all look at this. Look at like, where are they having this interview? You know what I mean? Like, it looks like they're in some dude's apartment. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even look like it's I don't know. It's very strange, but yeah, it's not coming up at the top. So, but yeah, here I'll pull up this story and we'll break it down for a moment and then get out of here. But yeah, Kanye West, man, condemned for wearing black KKK outfit during controversial interview. Now, I think that obviously, I'm not sure who Jose was talking about, I think he meant this toward Kanye. Probably, at least it would make sense. This dude's life is a fake Jew story generator. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, it feels like anytime they need to kind of prop up that anti-Semitic notion in the public perception, key Kanye West, man, who's embracing the moniker of anti-Semitic, which I found hilarious. That was a part of this reveal, this huge, controversial, stunt, right? Which is really just him trolling in certain ways, but also the timing of it is what makes me so skeptical that why? It's like, maybe, I don't know. It's too difficult for me to kind of put it in the terms of he's just in certain ways a brilliant genius in regard to his timing, but I don't know. That seems a little bit too much to believe. I kind of am much more under the impression that you go back to Harley Pasternak and sending him back to Zombieland, right? I'm much more under the impression that these celebrities and that have such powerful influence. Was talking about the politician. Yeah, dude. I was wondering because that was perfect as well, as far as it applies perfectly to that, the Hebrew hammer. This is just the most ridiculous. But what was it? Kentucky Fried Jew. That's the best one. But yeah, still, I do think that Kanye has some sort of part to play in regard to ratcheting up this anti-Semitic notion in the conceptual outcome of just public perception, again, in regard to providing the manufactured consent for, obviously, look at how radicalized the environment truly is. Point to Kanye, right? And there are so many people who buy into the two-party delusion and the partisan, again, it's just the partisan deception that's all they really need. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think both are correct, JMS. They both apply perfectly. And yeah, I'm why else would the timing of this be so, just the synchronistic aspect of running, basically perfectly in parallel and hand in hand with this, this Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and this Jewish rabbi speaking, on behalf of, it's not enough to only be anti-Semitic in front of Congress, and calling for consequences on college campuses, which is a complete and utter violation of the First Amendment. That is why would Kanye, specifically take this moment in time to run with this PR stunt, and as far as just kind of embracing that moniker, that term, anti-Semitic. And so let's go through this independent piece that discusses a couple of the things that did raise some red flags for me as well, because it seemed layered in the presentation, a little bit too by design. But as much as this could be layered, which is hilarious. So Kanye West has sparked uproar once again after wearing a black Ku Klux Klan outfit during an interview released on Rumble by internet personality DJ Academics. During the hour-long conversation, West, 47, made several controversial comments about other individuals in the music industry while wearing the black leather garments with the infamous pointed hood. West had started the interview in a t-shirt designed by disgraced rapper Sean Diddy Combs and a necklace complete with a swastika medallion, which he had previously worn in a video with white supremacist Nick Fuentes. That's the framework of the Independent here. The rapper claimed that he had the outfit custom made along with an identical white one. When asked if he had worn the controversial attire in public, West claimed that he wanted to wear it yesterday, but was worried that people would, quote, put me in a hospital for my outfit. Condemnation of West for his latest stunt has been swift, with one person on X writing, "This dude just needs to go away." A second said, I would have ended the interview right there, an absolute clown. Quoting one of West's songs, a third person added, "That's enough, Mr. West. Please, no more today." People are so emotionally reactive. In recent weeks, West has displayed an infatuation with the swastika and other Nazi imagery. In another now deleted post, West claimed to be teasing a new artwork for a Sunday service choir that bore a striking resemblance to the logo of the SS. Last month, the rapper appeared in the Super Bowl ad that we covered, of course. And let's see. West shared earlier this month an Instagram post of a person wearing a white Ku Klux Klan outfit, which he branded Outfit of the Day. The post was removed for violating community guidelines. Yeah, man, like it's honestly, I know, right? The random Twitter dude quotes that it is so ridiculous that The Independent actually published an article with just random people who were criticizing and condemning his behavior. But yeah, he goes, "Wow, Instagram took my post down." He wrote in a since deleted tweet alongside a screenshot of his empty Instagram profile, as well as a screenshot of a message from Instagram informing him that the photo had been removed. According to Instagram, yeah, we get it. All right, so this is the latest stunt by Yeezy, the anti-Semitic, the anti-Semite, and what he straight up claimed that he embraced that term as well, which I found very, very important, considering, again, the timing of it is really the only, I think, part that's worth pointing out, right? And yeah, I'm trying to just go over this secondary article briefly to see this. Let's see. Yeah, talking about obviously his wife and well, he suggested that he had very little control over his children's names and likenesses. Kanye spoke about how Jewish and white culture have impacted his family life. He argued that he doesn't truly have 50% control, saying this white woman and this white family have the control of these highly influential black kids that are half the children of Ye. All right, so let's see, the swastika chain. Yep. Yeah, he stated the Jews think they too powerful. They think they can get Kim to play with me. The Jews and the whites above the Jews. He further alleged that Jewish culture is trying to pull my kids in the Illuminati system, and I have no say so on my kids. Ultimately, Kanye seems to be implying, I'm doing everything legally in my power, which is a quote, to fight those he believes are trying to take him down. It's worth noting that this isn't Kanye's first public display of anti-Semitism. Yeah, we get it. All right, anyway, that's it. So basically, yeah, the Jewish culture is trying to pull my kids in the Illuminati system, and I have no say so on my kids. It's interesting. So, man, who knows? I just he could just be trolling it, He could just be trolling, but I do think that at that level, I don't know how you're not compromised, I just don't. But anyway, so with that being said, I kind of think we basically touched on everything. I have a lot more that I had hoped we'd get to, but I had to preach for a bit, guys. I'm sorry about that. Tis in my nature. But nothing but love. You guys know this. I'm gonna have to get out of here. Well, I'll definitely reconvene tonight, man. Hit the like button everywhere. Go to both channels if you can. It helps with the algorithm as always. But yeah, guys, show up to Already Dead tonight and call in too if you got anything to add. You have any questions or anything, or just like have some. Appreciate you. Hey, say what now? Thank you, my brother. But if you have anything else like that ties in perfectly with some of the things we cover or we've been talking about recently, I'm telling you, tonight we'll have to talk about the Cotton Club murders and a few other things that kind of bring into the fold Satanic Murder Incorporated, which I can't seem to steer away from these various threads of investigation that, man, are just like shockingly revealing in regard to, it really does seem to kind of pull that curtain, and reveal the true machinations of this, the structural system of power in place at this moment. But thank you guys. Appreciate you. Unmitigated Mind, JMS, my brother, Wise Elk, 130. You're my boy. Maximum Beardsley. Nothing but love. And you guys, best place to support me if you can, of course, patreon.com/the underclass or /the underclass podcast. And I published another whatever this is yesterday. So there's definitely all roads lead to Rome. Yeah, I have a really cool piece we'll have to bring to the table about the city of London. I think I mentioned it before. We'll definitely have to discuss that. But so what was I saying? Oh yeah. Episode 9, whatever this is, it was a good conversation. You guys would enjoy it, I think, as well. And so the Patreon if you can, but otherwise, I love you guys, and I'll catch you tonight. I hope you have a good Tuesday afternoon.